Hi, I'm Pastor Marty, pastor of Trinity Church in Watseka, Illinois, and I've been asked to speak to you a little bit about the difference the Bible has made in my life. And that always reminds me of the man who led me to Christ. His name was Ken Freck, and I must have driven him crazy with questions about the Bible. And every time I asked a question, he would take his Bible and he would just flip through it, and he'd find a passage, he'd point to it, and he'd say, "Take a look at that." And I would read that verse, and it would answer my question. And I'd say, "Well, Ken, what about this?" And he'd be flipping back the other way, and then he'd find a verse and a passage. He says, why don't you read this? See if that answers your question." My life began to change. And Ken, by his example, by his model, he communicated that the Bible had answers for life, real answers that worked. And so for the last 40 years, I've been studying this book. I've been teaching this book to everybody I could find who would listen, because I know that this book transforms lives. It transformed mine. But I'm aware that there are pastors all around the world who don't have Bibles, don't have a complete Bible, have only a New Testament. I know of one pastor in India who's planting churches, and all he has is the Gospel of John. In my library, I have probably 6,000 books on a computer. I have another 4,000 books on my shelves. I have thousands of commentaries to interpret the Bible. I have a whole shelf of Bibles. I use them all. I refer to them often. But around the world, there are people who are starving for even a page from this book.
Vernacular Video Mission International, or VVMI, is working with ministry partners around the world to purchase Heart Language Bibles and distribute them to people who are being reached with the gospel. Bible translation has come a long way to make the scriptures accessible, but in many places, printing and distribution is far behind the demand for Bibles, and often waiting lists are long. Even many pastors do not have Bibles in their own language, but have to rely on English or trade language translations that are more difficult for them to read and understand.
Bayat ti fiesta di Paskwa, ado tinamati kenkwana. Idi nakita da dagiti milagro nga inalamid na.
The ability to read is also a challenge for many people who are being reached with the gospel. VVMI partners with another mission to distribute audio players pre-programmed with the Bible and other Christian resources in their language.
God's Word is changing the lives of millions of people around the world every day. Contact VVMI today to see how you can help with this important work.